Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are the Times football reporter Charlotte Dunker and the Telegraph's football reporter Sam Dean. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run everyone through the back pages then, starting with the Telegraph. McIlroy can go on to win 10 majors. Flustered and flayed, the Norris mistakes that are cause for concern. The Times, McIlroy makes history. Howe has pneumonia. Modric buys Swansea's stake. Lots of stories on the back of the Guardian. McIlroy's major warning. Howe braced for period of recovery from pneumonia. Semenyo's early strike lifts Bournemouth above Fulham. And Swan's surprise. Real's Modric dips his toes into football club ownership. A bit on Max Verstappen as well, and possibly leaving Red Bull. The back of the Sun says slammy McIlroy. Boss Unai calling for Villa spark, and Ed has pneumonia. And the back of the Mirror referring to Aston Villa taking on PSG. Here we go, and Liam may not fall into Man United's Delap. Right, we are going to start with the Telegraph, and we're going to start with Rory McIlroy. Where else, Charlotte? I know we introduced you both as football experts, but we're going to talk golf for the next 5 to 10 minutes because it was one of those amazing sporting occasions. I don't know how much of it you saw, but Rory eventually breaking this hoodoo. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I was up till the very end. Like many people, I was hoping that he'd sink that initial putt on the 18th to get it wrapped up early. But no, we went to that dramatic playoff hole, wasn't it? And he got what he's been wanting for so long, that 11-year wait for another major. And it was just the passion. It was the emotion. It was one of the best sporting achievements you'll probably ever see. I think when you look at all the setbacks that he's had, not just in that round of golf, obviously 3 times he was losing it, 3 times he had to fight back to win it. In the last 11 years, all the pressure that's been put on him, when are you going to get the green jacket? When are you going to win the Masters? When are you going to complete the career Grand Slam? Those are all the questions that he's been answering for years and years and years. And was it ever going to happen? And you could just see the emotion when he sank to his knees on the 18th green. It was absolutely remarkable television. It was remarkable sport. It was just amazing for everyone to watch. So he deserves all the plaudits. He deserves all the back page.
We've just lost Charlotte there for a second. Sam, I mean, that fallibility of McIlroy is the quite extraordinary thing, wasn't it? In the sense that, you know, if he'd have just walked away with it and won it by 6 or 7 shots, it wouldn't have been quite as amazing as it turned out, because he almost blew it, and then in real gladiatorial kind of spirit, he ended up getting the job done. But there was a real human side, and you could feel the pressure and emotion that was on him.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's McIlroy down to a T, really. That's perfectly on brand for him, and anyone who's watched him play over the last decade or longer, last 15 years, they know how human he is. And that's what I think makes him probably one of the most compelling sportsmen in the world right now, of all sports, not just in golf. And it's that human side, that fear that he might always collapse into some sort of spiral out of control, as we've seen before. But then yesterday he held on after seeming to have lost it on the 18th, and then came back in and hold that clutch putt. And now, as the papers are saying, and looking forward to the next few days and the next few months and perhaps the next few years, it's what happens next with McIlroy, and can this be the moment that opens the floodgates for him? And I think his coach Brad Faxon, who's also his mentor really and his putting instructor, he's come out and said that McIlroy can win 10 majors now, obviously double his current tally, and effectively saying that this will open the floodgates for him. And as you can see on The Guardian there too, McIlroy's spoken about how he now will feel freed up to play his golf without that burden of the Masters hanging over him. And I don't think any sportsman really can understand quite what that burden has been like for McIlroy. I think it's been one of the great quests in modern sport for him to get that off his back, really. And you could see the relief pouring out of him when he finally held that putt last night.
Yeah, I mean, it struck me watching it, and a bit like you guys, I saw every kind of ball that he struck, that all the while he was being aggressive and he was kind of chasing things, he was imperious, but then when it got nervy and he had something to protect, a bit like a football team with a 1-goal advantage suddenly, going in a low block, teams and individuals and sports stars, they play very differently when they're on the attack to when they're defending things. And as soon as that psychology shifted in the playoff and he had to hit it close, he did that like he did on 15, like he did eventually on 18. But all the while he was being defensive, it just wasn't happening for him. Charlotte, sorry, that's to Charlotte. Have you got me?
I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that he maybe shouldn't have gone so offensive with that second shot on the 18th the first time around, because if he'd played it safe, maybe he wouldn't have put it in the bunker and maybe we wouldn't have ended up with the playoff. But it was amazing to watch because you could see the emotion there when he's won it, but you could see the emotions throughout the round, and it was like you were living it with him. Every missed put, every missed or poor shot that he had, it was etched all over his face. I think there was times when you thought maybe he thought it was getting away from him. There was that unbelievable shot, I think it was on the 15th, and he was as impressed with himself as everyone else was. And I think it was that human nature and that human side of it that made the win so much better. And I think everyone was sort of on his side. You could hear it. I felt really sorry for Justin Rose, to be fair, because one unbelievable round of golf he had yesterday. So for him to come second and the round that he played was absolutely remarkable. But I think because of McIlroy's story, everyone was behind him and everyone was just rooting for him to get that green jacket.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, you've referred to it already, the Brad Faxon kind of comments about he can win 10 majors. The back of the Sun refers to that. Nobody can stop him. He's going to win 10 majors. An unshackled McIlroy, because we did have the sense, that the pressure that has been on him is possibly what's been stopping him from winning these tournaments. This pressure is completely gone. I think he talked today about, playing with house money, in the sense that he can just go out there and enjoy his golf again. He's a legend. He was a legend anyway. He's an absolute legend of the game. And unshackled, he's a scary prospect now.
He's done it now. He's got the Grand Slam. He's there, and now he can play his game free of that burden. And I think a lot of people who cover golf closely would probably say that McIlroy's biggest enemy over the past 10 years has probably been McIlroy himself. Obviously, a lot of great players have risen up, like Jordan Spieth, for example, had a few years, Dustin Johnson too, but those players have not quite sort of held on in the way that people thought they might. And it's always kind of been McIlroy there for the taking for him in a lot of people's eyes. And we all know that if McIlroy plays his game at his best, he is pretty much unstoppable. And it's been his own mind that stopped him doing that so much of the time, especially at the Masters. So for him to now sort of shed that and to remove that burden from his psychology, I think it could really open up the floodgates for him, and potentially, as Brad Faxon has suggested, many, many majors to come in the coming years.
And Charlotte, I was struck as well by the class act that was Justin Rose, who probably deserves a mention as well, because he played out of his skin. They're good friends. They play on the Ryder Cup team. We then saw Rory being hugged by Shane Lowry. I mean, a lot of his European teammates, Ryder Cup teammates, were so pleased for him. But Justin Rose, in that moment when his Masters opportunity was snatched away, big hug, looked genuinely pleased for him.
Yeah, what a sportsman, like you say, to be on the biggest stage like that, and for him to, like I just said, to have the most unbelievable round of golf and to put himself in that position where he was in a playoff and then to lose it. If he got that put in, then it would have gone again to a different hole, wouldn't it? So he was so close to winning it. But like you say, what a gentleman, what a sportsman, and really, really classy gesture from him to obviously go over and give McIlroy that hug at the end. But I think when he was walking down, and like you said there, he hugged Shane Lowry, he hugged Justin Rose's wife, Tommy Fleetwood was there. They were all there to greet him because they've obviously grown up with Rory McIlroy as well. They will know what it means to him. They know the battles that he's been through. Like Sam just said there, McIlroy said himself, yesterday was a battle with himself, and he managed to get through that, which he hasn't managed to do in the past. So for him and all his family and all his friends, and yes, they are rivals on the golf course. They obviously want to beat each other, but they travel all around the world playing golf together. Like you just say, they're in Ryder Cup teams together. They're in different teams all the time. So they have these close bonds. They know what it means for each other. So it was a nice moment. But yeah, what a guy. Justin Rose proved himself to be an excellent sportsman, and then just what an excellent guy in the way that he dealt with defeat afterwards and the way he congratulated McIlroy.
Now, Sam, I went to bed before the presentation of the green jacket, but someone in the newsroom here who did see it said Scotty Scheffler looked a little grumpy giving McIlroy the green jacket. Scheffler's the world #1, and he's had this real aura. He's been the main man. It was like he sensed that he might not be the main man for much longer, and that actually they've unleashed this new kind of unshackled Rory McIlroy, could be taking his crown. I don't know if you saw that presentation or what you made of it.
I think it's understandable to be a little grumpy when you're that competitive, you're an elite level sportsman and someone else is getting all the glory, especially as you sort of suggest with your question, when you know that McIlroy is probably going to be a different beast now and an even more formidable opponent. I think it's also worth mentioning, I think a lot of the headlines today on the websites and the newspapers tomorrow, that another American was quite grumpy too, and that was Bryson DeChambeau, who came out afterwards, obviously, and revealed that Rory didn't talk to him once during his round, which I think people will probably read into in different ways, but at the very least, it's a reflection of the growing rivalry between those two players. Obviously, got their history in recent months and recent years, and they're sort of the respective faces of their two tours. So that one seems to be bubbling away nicely too. And yeah, if the unshackled Rory McIlroy is going to take all these Americans on, they know what kind of threat that's going to be.
Yeah, and he said he was going to be in his bubble, didn't he, Rory? He wasn't going to play Bryson's games. But anyway, listen, guys, for the moment, thank you very much. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning papers, including this in the Mirror. Liam may not fall into Man United's Delap. You're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to the Times football reporter Charlotte Dunker and the Telegraph's football reporter Sam Dean. We're going to start back with the Mirror. And the headline that Liam may not fall into Man United's Delap. Charlotte, this obviously, Liam Delap looks like he's going to go down with Ipswich, but he'll be coveted by many a side who need a striker, Manchester United being one of them, but looks like they're saying here he may snub that move. What can you tell us?
Yeah, you can see why he's going to be wanted by a host of different clubs. He's been one of the brightest sparks for Ipswich, and there's a relegation clause within his contract, which means that he can be bought for 30 million, which for a striker who's proven that he can score in the top flight is really, really cheap. So Manchester United, as it's been known, have had many problems scoring. Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee. Liam Delap has more goals than both of those. So Ruben Amorim is looking to bring a striker to Old Trafford in the summer. Victor Gyökeres from Sporting was of interest, but Manchester United are working to a really tight budget. So if they could get someone like Liam Delap in for 30 million, who's shown that he has got what it takes to score in the Premier League, someone that would fit in with Ruben Amorim's system, then that would be really good. But obviously, if you're Liam Delap and you've got all these teams that are coming for you and you've got the pick of the bunch, are you going to want to go to a team that's just starting a very, very big project? Obviously, Manchester United rooted in the bottom half of the table. Unless they win the Europa League, they've got no chance of Europe. Chelsea are said to be interested. They are going to be looking likely they're going to be in Europe next season. Liam Delap, has got a relationship with Enzo Maresca from when they both worked together at Manchester City. So there's that link there. So I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as Manchester United would possibly hope, but you'd expect them to still be interested and still try and make things work. And obviously it's April at the minute when we're talking about transfers. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of twists and turns before the window shuts at the end of the summer.
Right, Sam Dean, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be Liam Delap's agent. What is the best fit for him? Feel free to say Forest. I'd love him at Forest. I think he'd be a brilliant fit. But in terms of, because obviously you go to somewhere like Manchester United, the scrutiny and the expectation is huge, which he may deal with very well. But where he's at in his career, where do you think is the best fit?
I think it's actually a really interesting debate. And I think as the weeks and months go on till the window opens, this will become a really good talking point for all journalists and everyone within the industry. Because for me, I look at Delap, age 22, he's played one season in the Premier League. He needs to go somewhere where he's going to play every week, guaranteed. That's got to be the priority. And is that going to be one of the top clubs in Europe? I wouldn't say so at this point. I'm not sure we've seen quite enough of him yet. Obviously, he's a very talented player. He scored a lot of goals, as Charlotte has said, and he's outscored some very, very expensive strikers in the Premier League. But he is still a little bit unknown. He's still a little bit raw, and he's not been at that top level of the Premier League yet. If he went somewhere like Arsenal, say, would he really play 30 games, start 30 games in a Premier League season? I think it's unlikely. For me, I look at him and think this guy's next step needs to be to an ambitious, upwardly mobile club that wants to challenge. And actually, you mentioned Forest there, and that seems like a pretty good move to me, or even somewhere like Brighton, for example. I think he'll be probably going somewhere higher than that, but Brighton, he could probably have 2 years there, score a bucket load of goals, and then get another move when he's a bit more ready to the very, very top teams. So that's the kind of path I would look at if I was Liam Delap's agent. But equally, when Chelsea come calling and put a 9-year contract on the table, we know it's quite hard to say no to that. So yeah, perhaps it will be Stamford Bridge.
Yes, money does talk. If he ends up at Forest, very happy to take a little bit commission, though. Let's move on to the back of the mail, shall we? Eddie Howe. Howe thanks incredible NHS, Charlotte, as he's treated for pneumonia. The first thing to say, worrying condition. He's going to miss a couple of games. We wish him all the best. How might this impact Newcastle? Because it didn't impact them too much against Manchester United.
No, it didn't. And I think, like you said, the biggest thing isn't about how it impacts the team or how it impacts the rest of the season. The biggest thing for him is that he gets better. And obviously it'll be a concerning time for his family. And he's thanked all the well wishes that have been sent to him as he recovers in hospital. So he's expected to miss the next 2 games. Like you said, that didn't affect them against Manchester United. They've been in phenomenal form recently. That League Cup win seems to have inspired them rather than hampered them and taken all the energy out of them. So if they win their game in hand, which is against Crystal Palace on Wednesday night, they do actually leapfrog Forest and go into third. So Champions League is looking like a real possibility for them next season. And what a season that would be for them this year, winning their first trophy in 70 years and qualifying for the Champions League next season. So, but like we said, obviously the biggest thing is Eddie Howe's health, and everyone hopes that he gets better quickly.
Yes, Sam, Charlotte said it well. The priority needs to be Eddie Howe's health. But how much of a concern is it for the team that he might not be there during these some pretty key games coming up? I mean, I think they've got Palace and then Villa. That's going to be a huge game, the Villa game.
Absolutely. Obviously, it will be a concern. And when players and staff are worried about the health of someone so important, it's always going to be tricky. But equally, we're at the point of the season now where the tactical plans are so bedded in. Everyone knows what they're trying to do. And Newcastle's a very well-structured, well-organised team. And Eddie Howe deserves all the credit for that, of course. So I don't think he's the kind of manager who necessarily would make all those in-game tweaks and tactical shifts that can change a game from 45 minutes to 55 minutes, as someone like Pep Guardiola has made a reputation of doing. I think Eddie Howe, he sets the culture, he sets the philosophy, he sets the strategy that they execute. So without him there, I think it will carry on as normal to a degree. But obviously, the longer it goes on, the more concerning it will be and the more damaging it will be to the team's prospects.
Yeah, well, we wish Eddie Howe all the best. Obviously, that goes without saying. But we're going to move on to Aston Villa. And Charlotte, you were at the Villa press conference today with Unai Emery and Morgan Rogers and co. If we look at the Times, for example, right at the top corner, your paper, the Villa striker craves chance to shine against PSG. What were the protagonists talking about today then?
So the main message coming from Aston Villa is that they're not fearful of PSG tomorrow and that they're confident that they can go and overturn the 2-goal deficit. Obviously, that late Nuno Mendes goal, which was injury time in the first leg last week, sort of felt like it killed the tie, but Unai Emery strongly disagrees. He said nothing's changed because they still need to win and they still need to score. So obviously now they need to score 2 just to force it into extra time. But Unai Emery in his press conference this afternoon urged his Aston Villa players to go and create their own history by obviously overturning that 2-goal deficit and making it through to the Champions League semi-final. But it's an absolutely massive task that they've got ahead of them. PSG were an unbelievable outfit. Last week, they probably could have scored another 3 or 4 goals. But the positive for Aston Villa is they did create their own chances, and maybe if they were more clinical on the day, they would have had a couple. And Morgan Rogers did say in the press conference that he followed after Unai Emery, he did say that if anyone can do it, Aston Villa can. And if we look at their form since the turn of the year, since they brought in Marcus Rashford, Marcus Asensio, they've strengthened the squad. They've got better options off the bench. They're looking a lot more stable. They're looking a lot more consistent. They are performing a lot better. But they're coming up against arguably the best team in Europe. Look what they did to Liverpool. Liverpool are a stroll in the league this season. So it's going to be an absolutely massive task for them. But Villa Park has put on some huge European nights already this season. And I think that's what they're hoping, that will give them the edge and get them over the line. So an early goal tomorrow at Villa Park could just change things a little bit. So I think everyone's hoping it's going to be a close game and not a PSG rout, but we will wait and see tomorrow.
We will watch this space on it. Sam, I mean, the Watkins-Rashford dilemma. I mean, obviously, Rashford's been a good loan signing for them, but Ollie Watkins has always, well, in recent times, has been the main man for Villa. Who starts for you? And then I'm also wondering about this European pedigree of their manager. Obviously, former PSG manager, but triple Europa League winner. I mean, if anyone can turn it round, you'd think it might just be Emery.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it has been interesting to hear Morgan Rogers use the same terminology that all the Real Madrid players have been using after losing to Arsenal last week. So if one team can do it, it's Villa or Real Madrid. You decide. But yeah, Emery, he's won 11 of 13 home matches in European competitions with Aston Villa, and he knows what to do in these 2-legged ties. He's an absolute master at navigating these. And as you say, he also knows PSG pretty well, having worked there before. The Rashford v Watkins debate, I think, is fascinating. I think most people assumed for the first few months of Rashford's time there that it was Watkins' shirt and Rashford was the understudy. But in the last 9 games, Rashford started 7, whereas Watkins started only 1 of the last 5. And Emery has been sort of repeatedly hinting that he wants to play them both together. Then he also keeps rowing back from that, saying, oh, it's too soon. He's not quite had the time to do it. I do wonder if he'll be tempted to chuck them both in, knowing that Villa need goals and knowing how they might be able to combine together. I mean, they should know each other quite well. Obviously played together for England before too. So I wonder if that's on his mind, even though he was suggesting today that it's probably unlikely.
OK, our final story is a surprising one, really, Charlotte. It concerns Luka Modric. Sam mentioned Real Madrid, of course. He might have something to say against Arsenal. But Modric buys Swansea stake. He's a co-owner and investor in Swansea, it's been revealed. Interesting move. Obviously, was he 39 now, coming towards the end of his career, and they're looking to go into a bit of ownership. Good story, this.
Yeah, I think it was the link up that none of us were really expecting, Modric to take a co-owning share of Swansea. But like you said, he's 39 and I don't think it's something he's planning on doing full time just now. I mean, he's still got a massive part to play for Real Madrid. Wouldn't be surprised if he started again on Wednesday night. They're all in Spain, they're all expecting him to extend his playing contract for another year, and he's got the World Cup in his sights as well. So I think it's one for the future for him. He's looking at what he wants to do after he retires, and for some reason, Sam might have a better idea as to why it is he's picked Swansea. For some reason, it's Swansea that he's settled on, but it's going to be an interesting tale going forward to see how that works, how involved he is. He's just said he's really passionate about the club and getting them back to where they want to be, which is obviously back in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's an interesting tale and one of the game's greats linking up with Swansea. I don't think it's what we expected to be writing about today.
Well, I was going to get Sam's opinion on why Swansea, but we have unfortunately run out of time, so they have to make do with just being a football agent tonight. But Charlotte and Sam, thank you very much for your time this evening. Now, if you've missed